everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about TMEA All-State Etude number 2, aka Kling 21, which is the lyrical etude this year. I'm going to give you some practice and performance tips, and then I'm going to play the etude. Before we get going, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit that like button. I am really close to 200 subscribers, and I have something special planned for when I reach that milestone. So make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. And I have plenty more fun stuff after that planned on my channel too. The first thing I want to talk about with this etude is tempo. On the TMEA website, it's recommended to play this between 8th note equals 80 and 90, which is not very fast. In fact, I chose to play this etude at 8th note equals 80 because I felt that going on the slower side of the recommended tempos allowed me to do more with the phrasing and to bring out certain shapes in the lines a little more. I chose to perform this etude at 80, but when you're just starting out practicing with it, practice it much slower for starters to make sure you can fit all those 30-second notes in one beat and play them all clearly. My go-to starting tempo for any piece is usually 50, unless the performance tempo is 50 or under 50. And then I go even slower. But my point being that you will see a lot of 30-second notes in this piece, but that does not mean that they will be fast. Our time signature says 6/8, and a lot of the times when we have 6/8 in music, we think of 2 large beats that are subdivided into 3 small beats each. But in this one, just think of it in 6. Make the 8th note your primary beat. So we're going to think of this etude in 6, but with long phrases. A lot of the times in this etude, phrases will end on an 8th note or a quarter note, followed by a rest. So make sure we're really blowing through all the notes that come before that note, so that note sounds like it's the end of the sentence. The next thing I want to talk about is what the heck multiple staccato notes under a slur is telling you to do. Are we supposed to tongue that? Are we supposed to slur that? You'll see this appear in the melody in the beginning of the etude and when it comes back at the end of the etude, and also in measure 13. And the answer is that that comes from a string articulation. So if a violin player were to see that in their music, it would make a lot more sense to them because they don't have to blow air through their instrument. But what that would be telling them to do is to play all the notes under the slur in the same bow direction. Let's use the pattern in measure 13 as an example. So if a string player were to see this pattern at measure 13, instead of going, I got my air violin here. So instead of going ta, 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 they would go ta, 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 ta. So what that means for us is since they would have to stop their arm slightly between each note, we're going to think of that articulation as essentially legato, but with a little bit of space in between each note. And yes, you should tongue them. Let's talk about the turn, 7 measures from the end of the piece. So between the E and the G, you'll see this squiggly looking symbol with a sharp symbol above it. So what that's telling you to do is to elaborate on the E in an artistic way by playing the E and then also the note above it, coming back to E, the note below it, coming back to E, and then going on to the G. And the sharp is telling you, since we already know there's an F sharp in the piece because of the key signature, that the note below the E is what we're going to add the sharp to. So our turn is going to be E, F sharp, E, D sharp, E, and then back onto the G. You didn't think I'd make an etude video without telling you about all the cool trick fingerings you can do, did you? So a lot of times in this piece, you'll have G sharps, F sharps, and E's all in a row. If you like how those fingerings have less resistance, you can use that to your advantage by doing thumb 2 for all 3 of those notes in a row, or you could break up that pattern by doing F sharp, thumb 1 and 2. I used both patterns at various spots in this etude. In measure 12 on beats 2 and 3, we have just the A scale in order. So let me show you my favorite set of alternate fingerings for just the A scale. And you can use this in this etude or whenever you see the A scale. So for A, B, C sharp, and D, we can just start out with our normal standard fingerings. But then for E, F sharp, G sharp, and A, a pattern that we can use is we can do thumb 2 for E, thumb 1, 2 for F sharp, thumb 2 for G sharp, and then thumb 1 and 2 for A. So it's like we're just walking our first finger back and forth all the way up to that A. And I found that that lays nicely on the fingers and helps all of those notes to speak clearly. Now let's talk about the cadenza. So obviously this etude is already a solo piece for you, the performer, but in any piece, a cadenza allows the soloist to have more artistic choice and to even show off a little bit your technical skills and your musical skills and do essentially whatever you want to do with it. There's not really a right or wrong interpretation when playing a cadenza, but you do need to play an interpretation and a convincing one at that. Now, we're not just gonna make up different notes. The notes are already there on the page for you, but what you can do is change the tempo to be faster or slower as you see fit in the piece, or however much you want to show off. And by show off, I mean how quick and clean and with a good sound can you play it, and not just how fast can you play it. This etude is not a race. It might look like it sometimes, but it's not a race. So this cadenza is essentially 4 different phrases separated by fermatas at the end of each phrase. Now with the tempo, you could choose to start slow and get faster up to the fermata, or start fast and get slower into the fermata. You could do a different one for each phrase. It's really all up to you. If this is something that makes you uncomfortable or that you're unsure of, in any cadenza, you really can't go wrong with, after a fermata, starting slow, getting faster in the middle, and then slowing down again right before the next fermata. And that wound up being what I chose to do for most of these. And then remember that you might think you're getting faster or slower in your head, but in reality, you might be doing it so subtly that the audience might not be able to tell what you're doing. So make sure that you exaggerate these ideas that you have when you perform this. This also applies to the ritardando at the end of the piece. Make sure you make that convincing to your audience. Record yourself playing and listen back to make sure that your ideas are coming through to the audience too. And if you listen back and they're not, go even further with your ideas, even faster, even slower, even louder, even softer. You get the idea. Happy practicing, good luck, and let's play the etude. much for watching. If you like the video, please subscribe. I also have videos for number 1 and number 3 on the channel, so make sure you check those out as well. And if I get 200 subscribers in the next few days, my next week Tuesday video will be a funny meme video. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of my shenanigans. I put out new videos on Tuesdays, so have a great week and see you next time.